She just is the start of this. She said she will be happy if it's her, and she'll be happy if it's someone else. She said it might not be her, but it will be somebody. It's going to be one day a woman is going to break a 4-minute mile. And like I said when I started this conversation, it's tough for a guy. So imagine a woman.
That's I mean, it just gives me chills to just think of the possibilities, to think of where we are going in sport.
MC, are we surprised?
Nothing lightly. We back with another episode. I'm C's and this is Dee Dee. We know it's been a minute, but we got a lot to recap. We recapping the playoffs, the finals. We had an unexpected injury that we're going to get into. We're going to get into the NBA 2025 champions. We're going to break down the attempt of the 4-minute mile by Faith, the Nike runner, the Olympian, at this point, the world record holder. And then we just going to talk about those NBA trades and the NBA draft. So, what you got for him, D?
Today, we going to start off by talking about the NBA finals. Of course, we all know by this time the Pacers, they lost as Haliburton went down for an Achilles injury. This has been plaguing the league this entire year. In fact, it's been going around that this is the most Achilles injuries that the league has seen, with 7 total this season. But it's just so unfortunate. In the final game, in Game 7, the Pacers forced the Game 7. And what do we get? Haliburton to go down. And this was early in the game. So the Pacers had to try to withstand. They just didn't have enough towards the end of the game. And OKC ended up winning the finals for 2025. That was well deserved. Shout out OKC. They played hard. They kept pushing through. They were in a close battle with the Pacers. As we saw, we didn't know which way it was going to go. There were several games where the Pacers could have closed out earlier. And same with OKC. They let them hang around. But OKC, at the end of it, they got the W. What are your thoughts on this season for OKC in that last game, Sarah?
Well, I think it was as predicted. They was in the number 1 spot all year. Personally, and I've talked about this before, I think that they had a historic season. They won over 60-something games in a regular season, which hats off to them. But I just saw a lot of other teams coming out and fighting to get that Western Conference spot. Now, I did think that Denver was going to get them. I could have seen a Denver, and of course, I would have loved to see my Lakers. So, I'm not surprised, but then I am surprised because they are still such a young team. I don't think it's anybody on that team that's over the age of 27 or something. I forget. They're in their 20s. They're the youngest team to do this in a while. I think it's been since the 70s or the 80s that we've seen a team this young win a finals. I got to go look at that fact, but it's been over 20, 30 years since a team this young. I think they said the last team was Portland, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, I just knew that OKC was going to go far, but I can't say that I was the fan of the NBA that thought that they would make it this far. But I can say this, that it's great to see such young teams on either side. We got to give hats off also to the Pacers, Deasia. They were a young team. I even more so didn't see them making it to the finals over OKC. OKC has been number 1 all year, and if we're going to just say 0-0, the record stands, and these are 2 teams. OKC will go to the finals just based on their record alone, but the Pacers, we know, no. I did not expect them. You had so many other great teams in the Eastern Conference, and we touched on that. You had the Cavs, you had the Knicks, even the Celtics. I think that we didn't expect their ending of their season, but both of these teams, it was an amazing playoffs.
In the last 7 years, there's been so many different teams who've been winning the NBA championship with that, so that's another thing to talk about. So many different teams have won. I mean, we saw Milwaukee, we saw Toronto, we saw Denver. Now we're seeing OKC, So this is just great for the NBA. As we talking about new heights, new players, we must talk about the trades. We're just seeing Kevin Durant getting traded to the Houston Rockets. How will that have the Suns looking? They lose their number one option. And the Rockets now, they just get a lot better.
I know it's been a lot of who won that trade. DH, what's your thoughts on that? Phoenix or the Rockets?
I still think, without a doubt, Houston Rockets, they win that trade. You get a top player in the NBA and Kevin Durant. He's already won a championship with Golden State. So you bring in a veteran who's used to winning. Houston Rockets here, come on now. The last time they had a really good team fighting was when you had James Harden on there. And before that, it wasn't since Yao Ming and Tracy McGrady were playing. This is a team that's hungry for a championship. What do? You need to go get someone that's already done it and ready for another one. If he can, they already got young guys around him. They have a great team. They had a great season. Since the season before this one, they were not even in contending of anything in the playoffs. This year, they showed up and were a better team. Now you add Kevin Durant. Yes, you lose a player, but you get someone who's better. Let's just be honest, Now the Suns, I think that's a good move for them as well. I don't think they won that trade, but I think that they bring in somebody else who's a scorer. Is he going to, bring what KD brings? Probably not, but he will score the basketball. And if they put young guys around him, which the Suns are doing, I think they can have a contention at least getting into the playoffs and doing well next season. However, the Rockets, they won that trade. When you get a KD, that's just like leaving LeBron on the table. You can't leave those type of players on the table. And when they're in the trade, that's an automatic win.
Yeah, I think that that team instantly became a finals caliber team in the West. Remember, DH, this team was in the number 2 spot. They was second in the Western Conference in the regular season. They just had some hiccups down the stretch in the playoffs. Remember, the guy that they just traded, that was who they was waiting to wake up in the playoffs. He was supposed to be their best player, but he kind of, I won't say he didn't show up, but he was like, where's Jalen Green at this point? He was a big factor of them not going as far as they did. Now, yes, that team is very young. They were looking for a veteran to carry them. But now you got, arguably outside of LeBron and Steph, he's right up there with them. You got KD. You have this awesome veteran. I think, Deasia, that type of trade, it's almost like uneven match, but this is the dynamic of that trade. Phoenix Suns, they had a huge cap space. They cannot pay all of those 3 guys. So, yes, they gave away something to get. Houston had to give away, and they did not. How do I say this? The money factor is not even. Phoenix had to lose something in that deal. You get it? Because they were paying KD so much money. They were paying KD, Bradley Beal, and Booker so much that they had the largest cap, the largest budget in the league, and that's why it was such a controversy. Like, why are we paying this much and we're not going anywhere in the playoffs? We have been like this for the past 3 seasons since we've got this team. Because it doesn't make sense. How can you not be going somewhere with these 3 guys? In their position, DH, top 10 guys, all of them, right? Why aren't we seeing anything? So Phoenix lost something. That's why, in my eyes, it's not an even trade. You get a top 2, arguably, in a league player for Jalen Green. Maybe a top 5, top 10 point guard. Maybe. And this is just point guard out of overall number 2 player in the league. The best shooter of all time, the best scorer of all, not the best shooter, but the best scorer of all time. You get what I'm saying? So I think Phoenix is playing a long game, and they had to. You got to trade off. You got to shake up that because you just weren't successful. How long are you going to continue to live with that? How long are you going to continue to play with these three guys and there's nothing that's happening in 3 seasons? You got to move. But Houston won that trade because right now they are a championship caliber team. They was only waiting for this type of player, for KD. And Deasia, he a sniper for a reason. He's the easy money sniper for a reason. He do not play. This is, first of all, he have history in the playoffs. He have history of winning championships. What more can you ask? Plus a young, hungry team that almost did it without him. It's perfect. Now let's get into some of those other trades. You was just talking about Lonzo Ball earlier. Break that down.
So Lonzo Ball was traded to the Cavaliers. Overall, what I want to say is that Lonzo Ball, to be honest, the Bulls, they weren't using him. I understand why they wanted to give him away. I just don't understand why did the Cavs need Lonzo Ball. You already have a Darius Garland. You already have a Donovan Mitchell. Where is he going to play? These are 2 top point guards. In fact, when Darius Garland is out there, you have to put Donovan Mitchell in the 2 spot because he's more of a scorer out of them. And then Darius Garland is so great with the ball. Do I think Lonzo Ball is anywhere near close as a better player than those 2? Nowhere near. He's nowhere near the type of player they are. And he hasn't proven it in any of his seasons. I don't care when he was doing good on the Bulls. He's still not the players that those 2 are. I don't understand. Why do you go get another guard? The Cavs, I just don't get that. Even if you bring him off the bench, he doesn't deepen any bench to me. This is the type of player where, honestly, I go so far to even say, why is he still in the league? I'm just confused. I'm baffled by why the Bulls even kept him after his injury. He should have been back. He didn't do anything when he came back, but then now you trade him just to get rid of him in the Cavs. I don't understand. What are you going to do with him? You don't need enough. He can't. If you want to put anybody on the Cavs, get more shooters. I can understand, I guess, defense, but even that, I just don't see how he can do anything for the Cavs. They just had a great season. To me, I would just get even more shooters and add some more defense. I would get a 3-and-D guy, and he's not that because he's not going to hit the 3 consistent. I just don't get how he's going to back up Darius Garland.
Yeah, I'm kind of confused with that trade as well. It just seemed like the Bulls wanted to get rid of him, and the Cavs were the team that'll take his contract. I really don't understand that. The Bulls we just talked about this in an earlier episode, several episodes ago, that the Bulls, in order to do something, DH, they have to make major trades and get a major draft pick. This just doesn't make any sense because you don't get any better. You have to get better. The Bulls have to start getting better. They are not getting better. It's like the goal was to just get rid of Lonzo. Fine. But then you trade off. The trade, DH, it has to be some value. What did the Cavs gain for this? Nothing. To me, they lost in this deal. And the reason why is because we just haven't seen anything from Lonzo Ball in 2 to 3 seasons. He hasn't played at all. So we have nowhere to go and saying, okay, what is he going to give this team that DH should have actually, they could have won the Eastern Conference Finals. Like, I don't really get why they made because the reason why they didn't is because of their injuries. It's not because they were missing any pieces. They just suffered injuries late in the season, right? What do you think about their season?
Sarah, overall, I see they had a great season. Just because I get the NBA. At the end, we've heard this from LeBron. The goal is to always get to the finals and win a championship, right? So if you don't do that, you consider the season a failure. But that's kind of for LeBron. For these teams who are just trying to improve, this was a great season for them. They made it to the semis, almost to the semis. I won't say, what was it, the quarterfinals for the Eastern Conference Finals. This was a team, several years ago when they didn't have LeBron. They struggled. Now you bring LeBron back, they win a championship. After that, they struggled. Now you revamp the team. They're a contender now for a championship. They were number 1 in the East at one point. That's how good they were. I think they won 11 games straight this season. That's how good they were. That's a losing season. Whether they make it to the finals, whether they win the finals or not. They went far in the East. This team doesn't need to do anything but get back in the lab and jail and get better. Go work on your game individually. Getting Lonzo Ball doesn't help this team get any better. It just doesn't. I'm interested to see how the Cavs use him, because I think what will happen is it'll be the same thing how the Bulls use him. They won't use him.
Yeah, this is kind of interesting. And this goes to ask the question, what happens with those locker rooms when you have such success in those seasons? And we've seen other teams like that. Deja, the Knicks, even though they didn't get over the hump in the end, they didn't get to the finals. This was a successful season. I know the argument is, well, they didn't get to the final. And they got rid of the coach. I kind of don't like that, because Deja, this was a successful season for him. Right? This was a successful season for that team. They just didn't have enough in the end. But that doesn't this Deja, Thibodeau got them to the Eastern Conference Finals against great teams. Same thing again with the Cavs. And we've seen that. We've seen that with some teams. I mean, look at the Pistons, Deja. That team was in last place, barely won. I don't think they won 23, 24 games the previous season. And for them to turn it all the way around like this, and we saw the coach was so passionate all year. We have some of the best. He gave us some great NBA moments. Just him rallying around his guys, supporting his guys in press conferences. Just, we haven't seen something like that from a coach in a while. But that's a successful season for that team. So again, as far as how LeBron puts it, yes, it's a failure. But overall, these teams are progressing, successful. And I think that basketball is one of those sports. Do we say this for the NFL? When you have a team in last place that barely won 2 games to turn around and make it to their conference final or their conference championship, no, that we don't use that as much. Why is it judged so I guess so critically with the NBA?
And that's where LeBron and Nash was having that conversation about the ring culture. It's like, if you don't get a ring, you're not even a successful player, let alone if this team don't get a ring. Like, literally, in the WNBA, there's teams they've never won a championship. Same thing. OKC just won their first championship. You get what I'm saying, Sierra? So, was that not a successful team? We can't forget that KD, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden, they also went to the finals. Did they win? No, but you can't say that team that year was not successful. Just look, if the Sky turn their season around, Sierra, right now, and they do better than what they did last year, is that not a successful season because they don't have a ring? That goes back to that ring culture where everything is about a ring. But what happened when the league was where every team had one good player? And not everybody, when you got one good player on every team and there's really no big threes, it's just a good franchise.
If
there's just a franchise player, that means that you might come across a team like the Pistons or the Lakers. Now, they got a good set of 5 guys, but there's still one franchise player. Pistons is like a one-off. They didn't necessarily have that franchise player. They was just a group of dogs, But you look at the Lakers, they had a Kobe. But then you look around the league, you got Melo by himself, Allen Iverson by himself. Maybe when them 2 got together, that's just 2. That's not enough in the league these days. Today, you can't just say 2 people is going to be enough to win a championship, Sierra. It doesn't work. So when the league was that spread out, that meant everybody wasn't walking away with a championship. So you cannot say Sierra Allen Iverson is not a good player because he never won a ring. Just like you can't say that for Carmelo. Why would these players be in the Hall of Fame?
Or top 75?
They don't have a ring. So we put all this pressure on ring culture, but then we look at, wow, does that really mean so much when the league is stacked? You have a team that barely has a franchise player, and then you got a team where it could be 4 franchise players on that team by itself if they was to spread out on different teams. It's 4,
And I wonder, DH, is this just the NBA? Because we don't say that with track. We don't say that with baseball. You might have a home run derby. He's a Hall of Famer because of the way he hit. He might never have a pitcher. Hall of Fame pitcher, right? Legend in baseball. Do we say that in football? I can name you at least 5 football players. So is this just an NBA thing or is this a sports thing? Because I know it ain't a track thing. I know it's not some of those Olympic dominant sports where we only see every 4 years We don't name gymnasts that never win an all-around or never win a medal like they're not great. To be an Olympian, you are great. So why is it this ring culture in the NBA? That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's a topic that, it goes back and forth. Yes, you want to see these teams get rings. You're happy for OKC getting their first championship, but then, you look at the teams now. That always leaves a team without a franchise player or a group of guys that can come together and win a championship. It's just not likely these days. And that's kind of what LeBron is saying. You're going to be left, it's much easier. The ring, maybe he's saying that the ring, it doesn't mean as much as what it did then. Because it was hard for Allen Iverson to get a ring, Sierra. It was hard for Carmelo to get a ring.
Do you think, and I have my opinion on it, do you think that the competition is better now? That the league is more competitive now? That players are better players now? Or what is your thoughts of why it's changing? Because I want to make another point. I can name a few teams that right now today don't have a franchise player. And the Bulls is one of those.
Yeah, they definitely don't. I would say, Sierra, the league, what I'll say is it has changed. I won't say it's better or worse. I would say that we know that there's more three balls going up. You got 7-footers hitting a three. You got 7-footers that are just overall more versatile. They can put the ball on the floor. They're stepping out for the three. They have a short corner. They're flashing. They're doing a lot more as a big, but they're not as dominant as when you hit a Charles Barkley or a Shaq. You won't see them stepping out for the three, but they were way more dominant in the paint. But then now you have a Jokic he got some moves in the paint, but his game is so expansive. He can step to the three, and not just shooting from the three. He can pass from the three. You see it, Karl Anthony Towns here shoots from the three and can get to the basket. So the game has changed in that way. Not to mention the three ball in itself. You have a Damian Lillard and Steph Curry shooting from almost half court consistently whenever they feel like it. That has stretched the game. It has changed the game. Whereas Michael Jordan get to the mid-range, and if his three opens up, it just opens up. The game has changed. Look at Allen Iverson, Sierra. Get to the mid-range. Get to the basket. We don't even have a lot of point guards consistently that get to the basket the way Allen Iverson. I would say the person that just comes to mind for me is a Kyrie that can just get his shot whenever, but sometimes you don't see that as much in the league now. You see a lot of guards playing with their back to the basket, actually playing kind of like a big guard even when they small. That's what I see now in the leagues, but I don't want to say it's better or worse. I just say that it's different. I will say back then they playing a lot more defense. We don't see games that's getting to 130, 140. It used to be 80, 90, 100. You would be happy when you got over 100 points because you was going home to get a Big Mac if they won. Now, they might as well, McDonald's might as well say you got to get to 130 plus have 10 threes in the game to get this free Big Mac, and you gotta win.
And be up at the half or something.
Right, you gotta have scored over 70 points by the half. Because it's just a given now that those teams are gonna score 100. If you don't score over 100 in the NBA today, Sierra, you probably don't win that game.
Probably, and those are the factors of, I think, when you look at those who bet on Underdog or some of those other platforms, I think those are some of the factors. Will this team score over 100 points? Will they have 60 points at the half? Who is going to put up 30 points? You see your stars that's like averaging 30 when it could have been 20, 25, and those was big games because it was defense being played. But now your stars are scoring 30, 40, 50. If you talking about Jokic, he can put up a 50-point game. 50 and 20 is his numbers. Those are his numbers on average, and he's still passing. 20 is his rebounds. Yeah. He be 50, 20, and 10, or 50, 20, and 12. It's just crazy numbers. But as far as the game changing, that's a good breakaway into what about this NBA draft? Is that a change? Because that's been like very controversial. I won't say controversial. It's just been very interesting. It's been a difference of how we have seen it in the past, or how it has. The response from the players is different than what we've seen. What do you think about that?
Yeah, Sarah, it's a big difference. You used to see a player like they've been so excited that their dreams have come true, that no matter what team they own, they just in the NBA. I get to say that I'm in the NBA now. I'm in the league. Now that's like It's like you telling a player, well, you in the league, but you don't get to choose. They get mad when they don't get to choose their team. Being in the NBA is not enough for these players anymore. It's like they got some alternative. And maybe it's NIL. Maybe it's, I don't know, overseas. Maybe, I don't know what it is. It's streaming. I don't know what it is, but there's some alternative to the NBA. We're seeing that in real time now. There's an alternative to an NBA, whereas and you're thinking you big enough now to tell the owner, the front office of these teams, which team you can play for. This is not NBA 2K. I literally seen tweets like these players think this is an NBA 2K where you can pick where you want to play. And I don't even play NBA 2K like that. But I think even on there, you just still get kind of randomly chosen. I guess you could turn the game off and start all over. But even that's still a glitch. There's no glitch in this real life. This is real life, Sarah. You do not get glitched. You should be so happy and grateful. That's how it used to be that you got to the league. We see that in the WNBA, Sarah. Them players, they definitely don't get a choice of what team they're going to. You see those women just happy. Regardless, I made it to the WNBA, whether they on Valkyries, the Sky, the Aces, Seattle Storm. You get what I'm saying, Sarah? You do not see that for the women where they're crying, saying, well, I didn't want to go play for the Sky. They haven't won many games. You literally saw that from players saying they don't want to play for Utah Jazz. What happened to you go to one of the worst teams so that you can make them better? That's why you're top 10 in the draft. You going to a team to make them better.
And you become the franchise player instantly. What happened to that being an excitement? And is it just now just want to walk into a team and win a championship?
And that goes back to what we're saying. Why is this ring culture so big that you got to go to a team where they're contending for a ring? Why can't you go to a team and just be the star? What happened to that? You're in the NBA, go to a team and be the star. Yeah. Nobody wants to be the star anymore, Sierra. It's like, maybe it's just starting from college. Nobody is going to a random college. Everybody going to Duke, Kentucky. You're going to the big schools. So you're used to playing with the best. And then you think that's how that works in the NBA. But that's not how that works.
I wonder what those conversations are like too. Like you have as a player and as an owner or somebody making a decision, a GM, you really want this player, but they're telling you hearing it in their voice or you hearing it through the people around them, like it's kind of cold feet with this relationship. Like, well, I want to go for you. I've got this lottery pick, and you are the third pick, and I want you. But I don't like how this relationship is starting. I wonder how that goes for the teams. And so I think we saw a lot of the trading and a lot of this moving pieces. Like we saw the Celtics, they really kind of broke up their core. But is it to get these guys, and then again, like what is their response? Like, do you want to be here? And it's teams like we keep saying the Bulls, but this is because it's our city and we know that we need a franchise player, that we would love to have a top 10 draft pick, right? And this city is desperate for that, for this type of guy to come in and change it. But because this team it has a lot of growing to do, you're not up for the job. You just want to go to the Warriors team. Like this team is pretty much set. They're ready to go, ready to get far in the playoffs. But if you look at those teams, OKC, that took a couple of years to build that. You look at the Pistons, took a couple of years to build that. Houston, rebuilding. So in 4 to 5 years, yes, these teams. But is this a new generation? Is this kind of new where this is the first time that we're seeing where they don't want to do that work? So we just add into the conversation, like, what is this? Because this is a life-changing moment. And your cities that need your talent and is ready to be behind you, buy out your tickets, buy your jerseys. Chicago is one of them. The last time we've had this is Butler. Let's just be honest. Or D Rose. We're waiting for that type of guy. And you kind of just don't see this in other sports. Look at the Bears, DH. Caleb Williams went to the Chicago Bears. It was a big thing because it pushed out the really good quarterback that we already had that had the potential, and he ended up going to the Steelers, right? To play behind Russell Wilson. But Caleb Williams was the number 1 pick. He couldn't say, oh no, I can't go to the Chicago Bears, who we know have not won anything in years. Right? So what is it about basketball, DH? Do you think that it's just kind of, is this something that veterans like Steph, like LeBron, do they need to say something? What do you think needs to happen with this?
Well, I
Because
don't think it comes from them. I think it just comes from the league, and maybe these players, like, hopefully they got their ears out, they got their eyes open, and maybe they finally. I think it don't even got to come from LeBron. It should be like your family that's telling you, hey. You remember that you was working on this since you was a kid, right?
yeah,
You remember that this was your dream to go to the NBA, all them AAU games, all them training sessions, all them workouts, all those sacrifices you made even in high school, college. That even starts when you a kid. You gotta miss some things to go play. Sarah, how many games did we play on a Saturday or Sunday average? 3 a day. That was the average. Sometimes even 5 games. And we would miss our whole weekend for that. We got nowhere near to the WNBA, right, Sarah? But imagine somebody they in the NBA. All you gotta do is your dream has came true. This is what the sacrifice is for. You just need a family member to remind you of that. Like, no matter what jersey you're putting on an NBA jersey. Because you could be putting on a little practice jersey. You could be putting on the practice team jersey. You want to be putting on the real official NBA jersey or the practice team jersey. Or they say, go put on your scrimmage jersey because you just going to play weekend basketball at LA Fitness. Is that what you want? Because these are the decisions. If you don't take it, somebody else is coming. Somebody else going to say, yeah, I want to go to Utah Jazz. And you got to remember, the NBA has a G League. Maybe that's the difference that the WNBA doesn't have. You will never see a WNBA player saying, I don't want to go play for Chicago Sky. They will, Sarah, they are eager. If they get booted from the league and another team picks them up, they don't think twice about the team that they just left. But for some reason in the NBA, you see that. But we forget that there's other guys in the G League hungry for that spot. Guess what? The guys that just got drafted, Sarah, some of them on 2-way, some of them on solid contracts. The ones and some just going to the G League, right? Wouldn't they love to be the number 1 pick all of a sudden, or the number 1 option on Utah Jazz all of a sudden? Or the Chicago Bulls? They would love to be that. So maybe somebody got to tell them, hey, it should come from a family member if I got to answer that question. That should come from the family member.
And we want to shout out all of those that were drafted. I know this is kind of like, the reason we just giving you our opinion, but shout out to all of you all that were drafted. Shout out to the draftees at the NBA.
And shout out Cooper Flag number 1 to the Mavs, because the Mavs just got a whole lot better. They got really good, and they was already good. You got Anthony Davis, you got Kyrie, now you got Cooper Flag. That's a championship team in the making.
Yeah, and I think that was what was such the surprise about that DH, they did win the lottery pick, and they were already pretty good. Like, it was a slim chance that they was going to get the lottery pick anyway, but that's just how the cards had a dice roll, I guess. So anyway, shout out to the NFL, and I'm saying NFL, NBA draft picks. Shout out to those. I think we did see some beautiful stories, though. Some young men, one guy was crying and was like, this changed my family. He was showing the suit. All of his family was inside the suit, like pictures of him. And I just thought that was beautiful. On live TV, he was crying.
Yeah, and
that's life changing.
You like to see, like, look at when a mom is there and she end up being your coach. Like, come on now. You got so many people rooting for you. That's what we talking about, Sarah. I mean, this is what it's about. If we look at all the people that's rooting for us right now, and for us to say, oh, we don't want to get to the next level or whatever we doing, that's kind of like selfish to the people that helped you along the way. You should just go up there proud and happy because they were rooting for you. And imagine the sacrifices they had to make too.
Yeah, I think when you do something like that, anything that you do that's spectacular, anything that's pretty much like
1 in a million.
1 in a million. It's a community. It just wasn't you. It's a community of people that helped you do this.
And you may not see them in the gym. You may say, like, they was never there with me. But maybe they was the one that drove you to the gym. You know, they helped you get there.
Yeah. And maybe that was the one that kept writing you, keep going. I know it's tough. Keep going. Or this was the person that was sending you care packages to college. Or it could have been every time they see you, here's $30. I know what you're doing is tough. Or, I mean, it could have been just a teacher that said, you gotta pass my class.
Right.
It could have been that type of person. And it's like, I'm happy you said that, DH. It's not just for basketball. This is anything that that is worth having. Anything that people that it's like 1 in a million, a dream come true. If your dream is to become a doctor and you did that, I bet you it was at least 10 people that was helping you do that. If your dream was to become the best dancer, to get on stage with a artist that sells out shows all over the world, I'm pretty sure that it's somebody that helped you. Let's talk about Faith going for the 4-minute mile. She just came up a little bit short, but she did still break her own world record. That's huge. Let's talk about that.
So yeah, I mean, Nike, you told me, you enlightened me on this, that Nike, their stock has been dropping, and they said they need to make a change. They got to go back to their bread and butter, their roots, and that's sports. That's what they do. Nike just do it, sportswear, whatever. They was going too much into the lifestyle. So what do? They get behind, they do a documentary on the first woman that was trying to break a 4-minute mile. Now, we know it's even tough for guys to break a 4-minute mile. You see them in college trying to break that 4-minute mile, and that's very tough for even a college. It's a D1 athlete, college athletes. That's not an easy thing. Now, you ask an Olympian, a woman, to do it. And she said, hey, let me do it. And she already has the record. So she's taking a shot at her another world record. Nike gets behind her. They do a whole documentary series. It's on Netflix, and it's even on the Nike running app when you're on there trying to complete your own miles for a little motivation for yourself. And what do we see? We see Faith on there, and we're watching the race here. It's a tough race. As we're going in, we're 400-meter runners, so we just thinking about, wow, to do that, she has to run a good solid 400-meter time, not good for the Olympics or anything, but just a high school girl's 400-meter time, probably 4 times around. Be under a minute 4 times around to break this 4-minute mile. That's just the average. That's just what you're thinking about as a runner. It's that fast, you know. But then you start thinking about, as a runner, you're asking me to run a minute 400 4 times. You know, that's not easy. You know, that's definitely not easy. So what Nike does is they put some other good runners around her to give her several rabbits, people to pace her. She goes out there and she runs a 4:06, which is amazing. She just broke her own record again, but she comes up short by 6 seconds and doesn't break the 4-minute mile. However, hats off to her. Let's not forget how difficult that is. She had to run close to a minute on every 400. After she completes one, she gets no rest. She must keep going. She completes another. She gets no rest. She must keep going. She completes another. She gets no rest until the finish line's here, and you that close. You literally got your rabbits cheering you on. Go faster, go faster, go faster. But no matter where you look at that race, where could she have picked it up?
Yeah, if you all look at that race, it was just so beautiful. It's just so inspiring. It's like you are cheering at your phone or wherever you're watching. It's just that exciting. You see the first 2 women get out of the race at the 800 mark. You know they must be tough pacers at 800 meters, Deasia. And what did they call? They called it a shield. She was in the inside lane the whole time, but can you imagine? Like, it was the guys in the front. They were the main rabbits. And imagine the pace that they're running at, Deasia, that you have to be basically on their heels to even keep up. And then it's people behind you. You cannot fall out of step. And I think they had lights. You said the green lights was her own record. Like, and I like how you said that. Like, what if you watch the race? What else more could she have done? Just think of your lungs, Deasia. Think of your lungs, your legs. You have to use knees. You have to be tall. But at a mild pace, Deasia, you're almost breaking into, at that point, she has to be almost sprinting at some point. But it's just such an even, beautiful race when you watch her. This is tough. But I think, Deasia, this is where sports is going.
And it's just the beginning. We saying all this to say that maybe Faith will come back, and if not, someone else will. She just is the start of this. She said she will be happy if it's her, and she'll be happy if it's someone else. She said it might not be her, but it will be somebody. It's going to be one day a woman is going to break a 4-minute mile. And like I said when I started this conversation, it's tough for a guy. So imagine a woman.
That's just it just gives me chills to just think of the possibilities, to think of where we are going in sport.
And Sierra, are we surprised? We seeing women jumping out the gym now, over the rim. Like, basketball is changing. It literally is for women. So why would it not change for track?
Yes, I think that this is the most natural thing to run. It's one of the most natural things that the human body can do, but it's unnatural to run that fast. That is just absolutely Deasia. It's amazing.
And she set the bar. She set the bar. It's like anything. As soon as somebody doing it, we looking at Sydney McLaughlin's records right now, Sierra, and they seem so unattainable. But you got a girl in high school that's breaking some of her records that she set when she was in high school. So you're thinking about the trajectory of this woman that's coming next. You know, that's the same thing that Faith is doing. There's some woman can be on her heels right now that's training. You think she was training for this by herself, Sarah? That's not how track works.
That's why
it was not on her own. There's other women that are going to do the same thing, that literally are training. Hey, you didn't do it. I'm going to attempt to do it. Hey, you did it. I'm going to attempt to do it. That's what Nike is about. Just do it.
But it's just, Deasia, when you watch that race, it was just like, this is when we talk about community, and we just put that in words in another conversation, in another topic. But that's what it was watching that race. She had not just women, she had men, she had coaches, she had the media, all of these people. It was just her there for that race, but it was the entire show to watch. Then you had the documentary series. Like, it's so many people around the world that are cheering her on, and a team of runners. It might have not been her today, but it could be somebody else from that team that go on and do it. Or you might see one of those guys that break their world record. These was people that they named in the sport. This was her team and her coaches. So let's keep eyes on Faith. Let's see if she's at the next Olympics. I'm sure she's breaking her own record somewhere in this world championships coming up. So that was just great for the sport of track. And from runners all over the world, I think that she just pushed the community and she set a new bar, like you said, Deasia.
Yeah, and it's nothing less than a woman can do, Sierra, but try to outdo a man. Like, just get to it. Just do it. You know, you have to strive to say whatever a man can do, I can do it, and I probably can do it better.
Absolutely. So the last thing, let's get your expertise, Deasia. Let's kind of just finish where we started. We highlighted about the Achilles. So what is just your expert opinion, the surgeon to be very soon, I might say, what do you feel about that injury that Haliburton suffered in that last finals game with the torn Achilles?
Well, first I'll say, when you look at Damian Lillard, you look at Haliburton, and who else had the injury? Was it DeJounte Murray? I think it was him. Yeah. And so what you see is I'm not just going to say that this is how it's always done, but based on their mechanics of that injury, they're taking a negative step with a ball. Now, we know that that's kind of a basketball play, but it's kind of not a play that you necessarily need. You know, it allows them to propel forward, but in that, you see the Achilles and the ankle basically in an excessive dorsiflex position, snapping the Achilles. And if you look at Haliburton's, it was a pretty high snap, like tear in the Achilles. And what the Achilles is really just the gastroc and the soleus, the calf muscles are coming together to insert on the heel of the foot, basically. And when that's broken, you can't walk. You're going to hear an instant snap. And that's what he heard. He was down on the ground, pounding the ground, because obviously he knew it was torn, it hurt, and also this is the finals. But you're starting to see that injury occur more and more, and based on the mechanics, you ask, like, how does this happen? As you know, just people in sports, people in medicine, you, or even a fan, you ask, how is this happening so commonly 7 times this NBA season? Why is it? And you look at the amount of games being played, you look at the load of these athletes, you look at the steps, you look at the biomechanics of the foot, you bring all of these things into play, and then you look at the athlete, you know? And it literally comes down to, it's an unfortunate event, I will say, Sierra, but they said a week before or 2 weeks before, he had already suffered a calf strain. So didn't I just say that those two muscles come to form the calf? They were already affected. It's not a coincidence that he ends up tearing the Achilles. It's just these type of things that doctors and sports medicine, or just even players, you have to be aware of this. Like, hey, I got to take some rest with my body. And sometimes I think this is what we hear now. An excessive amount of games. We heard that even Denver was saying they wanted more time in between the games. Maybe if the Pacers had more time, maybe this would not have happened. This literally happened because before that he had a calf strain. If he don't strain his calf, if he do strain his calf, get hurt, that's it. But you have to bring him back. They had no choice. He needed to come back so the Pacers can get to the finals here, like to get to a game 7. But in a game 7, he now has a season-ending injury, and I don't even know when he can come back. Now, I will say that to repair the Achilles is a pretty simple procedure. They do a minimally invasive procedure, which is why a lot of athletes come back quicker than the regular person that was to tear their Achilles. They're going to strengthen it and make it much stronger than what it was. A lot of people, they go into saying it's the shoes. I don't think this injury has anything to do with the shoes. When Kobe tore his, it could have. But this one here, it didn't have anything to do with the shoes. It was just the wear and tear on his body. And he had simply had that calf injury before.
That's interesting you say with the shoes, because I was reading, and I'm a huge fan of Jordan Child. She said it's the most prominent, or the most, how do I say this? It's the most common injury that they suffer in gymnastics is the torn Achilles, or something with the Achilles because of the landing, which kind of goes with that negative step. Because think about when they land on the mat in a floor routine, or even whatever. They're landing with force. And imagine sometimes they drift forward. So they aren't they're tearing their Achilles. And so when you just said the shoes, I can't imagine, because they don't have on any shoes. It probably really doesn't have anything to do with that. I don't have any, let me make this clear. I don't have any expertise or any background that Deasia has.
No, Sarah, I think you absolutely right. They love to say the shoes, but you never see.
That's just my opinion,
though. Never see a
or what I've read. That's just bringing two things, the knowledge of this, reading, and what you just said. They don't wear shoes. They wear tape, and that's it.
They don't have nothing supporting it, Sarah. Even like I look, when we go back, look at me. I suffered some Achilles injuries in track in my last season. Our shoes are much different from a basketball shoe.
They have no support.
It's meant to be supportive. It's meant to be light and to get me to sprint and move quickly. But it's not supportive in any way. It's not meant to be supportive. If track athletes could simply drill spikes into the bottom of their foot, that's what they would do, because they just want to be as light as possible. Right, Sierra? The spike is literally to help you dig into the ground, but it's not supportive. It's not. So why did I still suffer that injury? And it's wear and tear. At the same time, I remember things that I was doing. I was on my feet at a lot. I took a job which I shouldn't have taken. And that's simply what happened. Those things, you think that these things are one-off and they not related, but somehow you look back and you look at what happened to Haliburton, and I think about it. What was the only thing that changed in my 3 seasons before that? Oh, I took this job where I needed to work 8 hours before me going to practice at 6 a.m. in the morning the next day. I had no rest on my Achilles,
And I want to ask you a question here. We heard Kevin Garnett saying that his thoughts of it is the factor of dehydration. What do you think of that? Is that true?
I think that's a big factor too.
As you talked about the calf.
Yeah, I think that's a big factor too that goes into it, because when you think about the structure of Achilles, a lot of the blood supply is coming from the peritoneum, which is basically a small sheath that
you got to talk in layman's terms for us.
That's basically something that's covering the Achilles that brings in blood supply to it. But there's an area in the Achilles called the watershed area that gets no blood flow, and that's just an area. I'm not going to get too far into it. What I'll say is, and when I was in a surgery pretty recently, maybe about a month ago, somebody had asked me, what do you do for a tendon, which the Achilles is a tendon. They asked, what do you do for a tendon that's exposed in surgery? What do you do so that this tendon won't simply snap like a celery stick in front of you and break? So you must put saline on it, which is basically a water-based solution that is similar to the pH of the human body, right, Sierra? So we just poured some saline on it, then we covered it with like some gauze. Covered it. You can't leave it exposed because now dry air is coming in and it's going to harden it out and crack it like a piece of celery. Imagine you holding a dry celery. It's going to break much quicker than something that's moist.
And bouncy.
Bouncy, right. So we had to pour that saline and cover it with gauze. Now, a couple weeks later, Sierra, I think somebody had went down. At that point, it wasn't Haliburton. It might have been Lillard at the time. Pretty close to that, right, Sierra?
Right.
And so that's when Kevin Garnett came out, and I thought about it. Wow, just a couple weeks before that, I had heard about this with the surgery, and I put two and two together, and it made a lot of sense because Kevin Garnett was saying he thinks that this is happening because players are dehydrated. So when you think about saline, that's a hydration fluid, right? It's simply hydrating a tendon. When you hydrate your body, you're not only hydrating your system, but a lot of other things inside the body. So he was saying a lack of dehydration is going to causing these injuries. And that's a lot of medical things go into it, but it's not so far-fetched. At the end of the day, Sierra, you still need hydration. And he was saying a lack of dehydration is causing these injuries.
Well, the factor of dehydration.
Yeah, the factor of dehydration is causing these injuries. And I thought about it. If a tendon is not hydrated, it will snap and break. And
that's basic. That's the simplest way you can put that.
Yeah, and that's another factor. So when we just sitting here talking, Sarah, we can talk about the shoes, we can talk about the stress load, we can talk about the dehydration. Now you take a typical athlete, Sarah. Somebody comes in wearing short Nikes. The same person come in not hydrating well, not drinking gallons of water. A lot of water. You're in the NBA Finals game 7, or even in the Eastern Conference semis. You need to be hydrated. Yeah, you come in a stress load. If you just played a 60, 70 game season, now you still going far in the playoffs. This player is probably at risk of an injury, and the Achilles might not be the worst one. That's all we're saying here. But it just so happened that we keep seeing Achilles in this season. But we've seen the ACL tear. We've seen a fracture, ankle fracture, but this year we just keep seeing Achilles. And you got to ask the NBA, what are they going to do about it?
That's the question, and we'll leave y'all with that. This is nothing lightly. Deja, let's end this how we do.
So that was the ending of it. You know, if you like what we're talking about, you want to get in on some of our conversations, you know, you like basically just listening in. You can follow us for more on TikTok. You can subscribe on YouTube. You can subscribe to our podcast. We're on Spotify. We on Apple. We're on Amazon Prime. You can find us there at Nothing Lightly. Get us in the chat. Hit us in the chat. Tell us what you want to hear next. Sorry for the delay. We got some things going on, but we're back at y'all, and we love to do this. So thank you for listening.